And yeah, I was just going to do some quick introductions. So thank you everyone who managed to make the call. I'm hoping you'll find the next 45, 50 minutes or so useful. We've got some really great experts on the phone from our partners, Crisis 24. So for those of you that don't know me or don't recognise my name, I'm Hannah Parry. I'm the Senior Account Manager for Talent Trust on Aetna's side, so Aetna, the insurer's side, and Crisis 24 are our close partners when it comes to looking after our members in areas where there's potential threat to life, civil unrest, Afghanistan at the moment being the perfect example where you guys might need that extra peace of mind and information around what next steps are. So on the call, we've got Jason Andrews, who is Aetna's account manager on Crisis 24 side. So Jason and I work very closely together, and also with John and Nathan at Talent Trust. We've also got Jason South on the call, who is one of the senior managers in terms of response operations, so on the operational side from Crisis 24 as well, and also Jonathan Vincent, who is another operations manager. So you're in really great hands today. So I'm going to hand over to them shortly. I believe they're going to give an overview of the situation as it looks currently. We'll have a quick FAQ, and then we can also point you in the direction of some other support services that you might find useful at the moment if you find yourselves still in Afghanistan at the moment. So over to you guys at Crisis 24.
Thanks, Hannah. Just to complement that, we also have Jared on the line as well, who's an intelligence analyst who is responsible for that region of the world. And between him and Jonathan Vincent, we'll provide the intel side of things with Jason South, complementing them on the operations side. Cool. Jonathan or Jared, do you want to sort of maybe kick off with kind of what we're seeing in country? I think we pretty much all averse with what's happening at the moment, but I don't know if there's anything specific that we want to cover.
Okay, let me just start.
I'm sorry.
I can just start off very
Jonathan.
quickly. Thank you, Jared. I'll just start very quickly. So introduction to myself. My name is Jonathan. I'm an intelligence manager at Crisis 24. As Jason mentioned, I work with Jared, who's monitoring the situation in Afghanistan. So what we can look at just to start off with is we can first take a look at the situation in Kabul. And I know obviously because of the nature of the call, the status of the airport operations there and an outlook there is what you're probably most interested in. Which Jared will be able to provide. And obviously, if you do have any further questions or something you're not too sure about, then please just stop us and ask a question. And then just in terms of how we divide and conquer this, myself and Jared are more on the intelligence side of things. So we can help you out there. And if you have more questions for sort of a logistics operational point of view, then Jason would be your point person on that. So just with that out the way, Jared, if you can just fill us in.
All right, cool. So I'll start with the transport situation at Kabul airport, and then I'll discuss the security aspect of it. So as of today, military evacuation flights are ongoing in Kabul. No major changes from the last few days. We've seen several countries facilitating evacuations that way, including the US, several European countries, Australia. Regarding commercial flights, they remain suspended, although as of today, some governments, including Pakistan and India, have reportedly used civilian airlines to facilitate evacuations, but no confirmation of commercial flights resuming. Now, the question is maybe when will commercial flights resume? The Taliban may try to resume civilian flights when military evacuation flights are complete, but we can't actually give any sort of time frame for when that will happen. So looking to the past, when the Taliban was in power, there were almost no international flights to Afghanistan for years because of several factors. But if the government is outward looking and internationally recognized, they may eventually resume. The issues the things affecting when it will resume largely depends on if they decide to resurrect the Afghan Civil Aviation Authority, which is not operational at the moment, or if they build a new one from scratch. So if they create their own civil aviation authority, this would likely take longer to resume because they would still need to be recognized by other countries, the International Civil Aviation Authority, and they would have to reach bilateral agreements with other countries to hold flights. But if that happens, a couple of countries that would likely resume flights with Afghanistan first are Pakistan and China. Now, if Afghanistan were to resurrect the Afghan Civil Aviation Authority and use that, it would more easily be recognized by the International Civil Aviation Authority, and flights would likely resume faster. But we don't know when this is going to happen or which one is going to happen. Regarding security, the US forces still control the airport, though the Taliban has erected roadblocks on access roads in northern areas of the city, as well as on Airport Road. So what we know now is that the Taliban is not allowing Afghan nationals to enter the airport, although foreigners may still enter it. So some updates for today. Locals have gathered at multiple gates outside of the airport, and the Taliban have fired shots in the air, which is something they often do. But the situation may escalate in the coming hours if the Taliban struggles to control the crowds. Now, we've also had instances where if this escalation happens, the Taliban may fire on people trying to enter the airport. So for example, last night, they shot on people trying to enter through the north gate. We don't have any information regarding them firing on foreigners, but we can't discount that moving forward. They've also shot at people who've tried to pass through roadblocks without approval, although the only record I've seen of them doing this is that they shot an Afghan national, not a foreigner. Now, regarding US control of the airport, while unlikely, if the situation deteriorates, the US could pull out faster than expected. And the US government issued an alert, I think yesterday, stating that they cannot assist with people traveling to the airport, as well as people gathered outside the airport. And they've also recommended people to enter the airport through Camp Sullivan, which based on my research is located just south of the airport. And that's what I have to say about the airport. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to know?
Did anyone have any questions for Jared on that situation? No. Okay, thanks, Jared.
Rob.
Jason, from an operational perspective, what are we seeing in terms of what we've got going on in country at the moment?
Okay, so from operations then, before last week, we had a large number of security providers that could assist us on the ground, and also a good footprint of air charter providers that can assist us. Now, since Friday, with the Taliban going in, now these security providers are very restricted, especially the expats ones with Guard World, who are our partner in Afghanistan. Their weapons, etc., have been taken off them, and they've been restricted to movement. And in some cases, they have to use the Taliban to actually move around the city. Now, over the weekend and beginning of the week, all our providers are overwhelmed with trying to assist their own clients and personnel in location. We do have one or two security that are able to move around and do some transportation. But as Jared said, the airport is the most difficult part. There is a number of checkpoints to the airport, and there are turning people away if they don't have the correct documentation. And also they're taking documentation off people, and also money as well when they go through the checkpoint. At the moment, we've got a number of clients looking for assistance in evacuation, and currently we find it difficult to ensure that they've got all the documentation together. And at the moment, the Barron Hotel is the main place where the consulates, embassies are remote working from. and even getting to the hotel and getting to see the embassy representatives, we're finding quite difficult also. Once the documentation our clients are getting and we're transporting them to the airport, as Jared said, there's literally thousands of people at the airport. So trying to get through these crowds and to the actual the assemble point for the evacuations, we find very difficult. The Taliban have been fired one shot, as Jared said. There's been reports of stampedes, of the mass crowds there also. So at the moment, we are finding it very difficult with the transportation in Kabul, but it is possible if given enough time to organize it. Now, with the air charter, as Gerard said, the commercial side of the airport is being controlled by the Taliban, and 1 or 2 flights are coming in to evacuate people. Now, these could be from actual airlines that had normal procedures to come in, or there could have been evacuation flights. Now, we have been speaking to a number of air charter partners, and at the moment this week, there's no air charter flights. And this is around 6 companies we've been working with. We're looking at the earliest will be next week. And even then, that will be down to the security of the airport and the actual the airfield, if they can land and safely load people on and take them away. Permits and authorization is longer to take now than it used to be. As Gerard said, the old system is gone. So applying for permits through the military to land the evacuation aircraft. So as you can imagine, it's very difficult, but it's not impossible. We can get it done, but obviously what normally would only take probably a week to do, this could be anything from 10 days onwards. Any questions?
So I have a couple of questions. So I was communicating with someone else, and they were mentioning that there's like evacuation lists or something that have been handled by the embassies. Like, is there a list or that people need to get themselves on or something to?
This the list, the website obviously is down to the individuals and companies to load their personnel onto those lists. We don't have.
I was thinking more from, it was like someone mentioned like it was like kind of managed by the US government side of things. That everyone should make sure that they're on a list. This is what I heard, but I could be speaking about it.
Okay. No, or we know that if you're an Afghan national, that's dual passport, or you have a visa, etc., and then yes, you must register yourself with the embassy, and then obviously you'll be processed onto the list. We have a client at the moment. They're on the way to Barton Hotel, and they will be getting processed there and added onto the list. And like I said, the difficulty is not getting onto the list, it's getting to the airport and getting through the crowds to the right locations to catch that flight. So what we're recommending is, if you've been told that your flight is, for example, early tomorrow morning, then we would leave now to get to the airport and get through to the right authorities to hand that person over. Because at the moment, as we keep saying, it's just chaos there.
So giving yourself 24 hours to get to the airport.
Yeah, and the checkpoints as well are becoming difficult. Obviously, the Taliban are turning people away. They're taking documentation of people. We're not saying everybody, but it's been reported. We know that
so the majority of our people, well, all of our people would be non-Afghan nationals. They would be foreigners. Is that the same situation with them as well?
No, I think with the we believe that expats obviously have more leeway with the Taliban, obviously because in their eyes that they're seen as they're cooperating. We start to see it now that they're probably being begrudged Afghan nationals from leaving now, but they're still allowing people through, but they're making it more difficult.
Okay. So, and I assume, do you have any, like, what would recommendations be for people who are just waiting? Do you have any advice or things that for those people?
Yeah, at the moment, obviously we've got a few hundred people we're liaising with at the moment, and at the moment it's basically shelter in place. Now, if you are an expat, then obviously you need to register yourself and make yourself known to the embassies. You need to get your personnel on that list and process as well. And they will give you the information on on flight availability and where you should be going to. This is obviously if you're an expat. If you're an Afghan national with visas to go somewhere, again, you need to register yourself with the embassies. Turn up at the airport out of the blue. It's working for some people, but majority of them are just being turned away from the gates or not. They can't get through. We have sent security to the airport with personnel on, and they've been turned away from the checkpoint by the Taliban. We tried a different vehicle and that got through. So it's that, like I said before, we need more time to make this work because it's not straightforward anymore. Those people on the checkpoints, obviously they're not going to be there 24/7. So obviously personnel change, and obviously we keep trying and get them through. We understand that they're not being violent towards people, but they are being more thorough with document checking as well.
I think, Nathan, also for whilst they are sitting tight until they can obviously move, obviously the best bet would be for them to ensure things like mobile devices or anything with a battery is charged, and the charge is maintained, ensuring that they do have access to food and clean water, and if they can get access to potable water in the interim, then to do so as well, so that they've got that to hand. The other thing I will also say is obviously communication is a key part of moving people. Communication via SMS tends to be a lot more reliable than, say, phone calls, and equally it's less draining on batteries and so forth. So SMS is always good. Equally, we have also on current operations used WhatsApp as well between people.
We're finding WhatsApp is probably the best method at the moment. It's quicker and it's more reliable.
Great. Oh, I've lost it.
I think we may have some people there from the Philippines who may not have an embassy there, and maybe others as well. I'm just thinking of that example. What should they do?
Jonathan or Jared, do you guys know what nationals where there are little diplomatic representation in Afghanistan? Would it be advisable
we would
for
probably
them
have.
Go ahead.
We would probably have to find out and get back to you on that one, specifically with regards to Philippine nationals. It all depends on the level of diplomatic representation they have, and then also if there is no diplomatic representation in the country, to then check if they have any reciprocal agreements with other governments who do have representation in country, that they may be able to provide them with assistance. So that would be probably the first port of call, is to find those things out and then take it from there.
So John, if you, go ahead, Evelyn.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No problem at all. Obviously, understanding the nationalities of those in country might help, because it might not just be the Philippines. There might be other nationalities that might be in the same boat. In which case, we could do that research and find that out.
I have a couple of questions. So one is, if people who are Afghani and who have been working with different organizations end up on a list and get a visa, which is probably a hurdle in itself, can they be securely taken to the embassy, to the airport under the embassy responsibility, or is there any kind of ushering through from any of the embassies for them to help that get over some of these checkpoints?
I can speak to this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what we know so far is that obviously the US is the largest presence there at the moment out of foreign countries, and they've been very specific about saying that they are unable to provide security or assistance for those traveling to the airport, or to help them through gates and things like that. They've been quite clear on that their remit is only basically getting flights out and not opposed to security around or towards the airport. So if we look at that in the broader context, then it's pretty, I wouldn't say, it's rather uncertain that an Afghan national or dual citizen or someone with a visa would be able to get assistance in getting to the airport from any kind of government at the moment. This was a notice released by the US yesterday, where they were quite specific on this, about their inability to provide security or assistance in traveling to the airport.
Okay. So my second question would be, if it's so difficult to get to the airport, and while things are still in flux, is there an opportunity that is going to close down to actually get out the country through the borders? Are there some particular borders that would be better to go for, where maybe the checks are not yet in place in the same way that it might be in a week or two?
Are you speaking specifically to land borders?
Yes, land borders, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this would be nationals traveling from Kabul to a land border?
Both, either nationals who need to get out because they've been involved as employees, and some of our core missionaries who are trying to get out.
Okay, I think Jason could probably speak better to this than I could, but my first feeling would be that our ability to provide that kind of secure transport to a border is very limited at the moment, and it would also be a very risky undertaking. So it would have a lot of trepidation about carrying that out, but Jason, I'm guessing you could speak better to that than I could.
Sorry, Jason South. Jason, have we seen any road movements to land borders? Sorry, Jason South, can you hear me?
He looks frozen.
He does indeed look frozen. Okay, it might be a bad line there, which is, yeah, looks like he's having a bad line. Yeah, I'll probably echo exactly what Jonathan was saying in terms of the risk of moving people over by land, especially longer distances to things like land borders.
Sorry,
Jonathan,
I think Jared.
Hi, can I just add a little bit?
Yeah, go for it.
So I've seen reports in recent days indicating that Pakistani authorities have reopened the two major border crossings with Afghanistan in Torkham and Shaman. And I did see information that they were allowing refugees through, and other sources indicating that they were open to trade. These were the only border crossing reopenings that I've seen, though it is possible that if the security situation normalizes in the coming days, that other border crossings may open. Alternatively, if things become more hostile or tense, then those border crossings may close again, and others that are closed will stay closed.
And then just for the broader context on that as well, while Jason South is frozen, is I think the viability of land travel towards those borders, even if they are open, is not. I have a lot of doubt over whether that's something they would be able to or willing to undertake, given that the security situation is so fluid at the moment. The risks of moving towards those borders as opposed to staying put in Kabul is at the moment probably unacceptably high. And then the other concern as well is if theoretically we could get people across the land borders in Torkham and Shaman, we need to also be aware that once in Pakistan, you're moving into quite insecure areas in Western Pakistan as well. So those are things to consider as well. But hopefully once Jason South unfreezes, and he can speak a bit more to any kind of possibility of that.
Yeah, he has just messaged me. It seems like he's frozen. Sorry, go ahead, Cliff.
The border at Torkham on the 15th, it was closed, or reported that it was closed on the 15th to anyone. So I'm actually here to try to find out about land borders as well, but specifically the one further south near Kandahar.
So based on our last alert that we sent this morning, we noted that the Torkham and Shaman border crossings had been reopened by the Pakistani authorities. Whether that's potentially closed again since we've noted that, I'm not entirely sure. Possibly Jared or Jonathan could verify that, and we can confirm that with you guys. In terms of any other border crossings, again, we'd probably need to clarify whether they are open or not.
And then I think the other thing also to bear in mind is that the Pakistani authorities might open it on their side, allowing for trade and refugees, but it's not necessarily the case that Taliban authorities on the Afghan side of the border would do the same. So that's something to bear in mind. Obviously, as you mentioned, the border has been opened and closed a fair bit as this conflict has evolved. So that's something that if in some case we were thinking about using a border crossing, we'd have to get some very, very up-to-date info before making any decisions, I think, just given how quickly that they have been opening and closing. I'm just going off vague memory here at the moment, but I do remember a few weeks ago, I think the border crossing was also closed in response to some protests. And then the people on the Taliban side of the Afghan side of the border opened fire or fired into the air and then closed the border for a while. And then it was reopened a few days later again. And so we have to be aware that there's the possibility of the borders closing, even if they are open, of closing at very short notice again.
Cliff, does that help?
Yeah, a little. If anyone has any specific information of the one near Kandahar, I would appreciate it. I'll know either way at some point today or tomorrow from on the ground. But yeah.
Sorry, it's Hannah here from Etna. I'm just looking at the attendee list. It looks like we might have lost a few guys. I think Nathan might have dropped as well. Nathan, are you on?
Yep, Nathan is not in the room for now.
Jason back,
yes,
I think.
He is.
Yeah. Whilst we're waiting for Nathan and Jason from a Crisis 24 perspective, it might be worth the external attendees on the call just letting you know just some more general information in relation to if you find yourself needing possibly speaking to a doctor, or you would like any sort of mental health advice to get you through the situation. Please give us either give the team at Talent Trust a quick email or directly to myself. I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction. But what we can do is get you on a call with a doctor virtually if you want to seek any advice, as I say, around medical situations, medical conditions. Clearly, I'm not 100% in terms of access to medical care is on the ground out in Afghan. I don't know, Jason, Vince, if you've got any insight into that. at all, but we can certainly get you guys virtual consultations with doctors if you do have concerns. And similarly, you know, we've got a very good virtual offering around mental health assistance, emotional well-being. So if you do want to talk to someone just independently, then let us know and we'll connect you with the team who can help you with that as well.
Thanks, Hannah. So I had to drop out. I was trying to get Jason South back in, but for some reason he's not coming in. Yeah, just to add on to what Hannah was mentioning about some of the other services that we've got. One of the things that we've also been looking at is if you have people who are, or you are still in Afghanistan, or you've just come out, we'll also can arrange sort of like a small group debriefing as well. We kind of see this as like allow people to go through kind of like a virtual debriefing with others who've gone through the same experience, and recognize, you know, this format may kind of help those who maybe are struggling to process their thoughts or their feelings by kind of allowing the sharing burden to be spread across the group. It would help create a bit of a support network for people who've gone through the same experience or similar experience. Yeah, if you or you know people who want access to that, just let any of my team know, and yeah, we can sort those things out. Did anyone have any final questions?
Can I ask one more?
Oh, yep. Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
Sorry. So if people are either nationals or expats, the expats would contact the embassy or any kind of other representation that they might find with a reciprocal agreement. For nationals who are trying to get out because of their involvement or for their own safety as women and having children, are there other lists that they could try and sign up on to be in the know of opportunities to get out? So UNHCR, other organizations to try and contact who might be able to help them.
Immediately on this call, not that I'm aware of, bearing in mind that the situation is quite chaotic at the moment, but that's certainly something that we could look into further. Are you thinking of dual nationals or specifically Afghan nationals only?
At this point, I'm only aware of Afghan nationals who are trying to get out, you know, medical doctors and all that, who've been involved in some projects in the north and who are now in Kabul.
Okay, understood.
Okay, well, thank you, guys at Crisis 24, all the Jasons and and Jared. Thank you very much. Thanks Hannah for helping organize this as well. Yeah, if anyone has any other questions or anything, you're very welcome to email me or my team, and we can put you in contact, or feed those through to Crisis 24 guys as well. Yeah, just but yeah, thank you. And yeah, we're praying for all these guys and who are there. Okay, thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks very much for having us, and yeah,
Thank you.
We'll keep monitoring the situation.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just to echo Nathan, you know, here at Aetna, please feel free to email myself directly if you need anything. I'm actually on leave next week, but I'll keep an eye out if anything needs escalating to either Crisis 24 or Talent Trust. And yeah, we're just pray for a speedy resolution for all of you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.
All the
Thank you
best.
very much.
Bye.